Welcome to the Work Heartily podcast, where we grab no more than 15 minutes with Nashville founders and executives that you know and admire, and some that you need to know, and ask them one big question. I'm your host, Jonathan Barnes, coming to you from the Work Heartily headquarters here in Brentwood, Tennessee, where we help growing Nashville area businesses win through embedded fractional leadership. Today, we have Chip Higgins, who is the author of the Bizzics Way, which is a business guide that applies the laws of physics to entrepreneurship using concepts like energy, force, and momentum to simplify business principles for small business ownership. I am so glad you're here, Chip. This is a long time coming.
I'm thrilled, Jonathan. Thanks for having me on.
I'm glad you're here. So the first question, sorry, I'm going to jump the gun here. The first question is, are you ready?
I'm ready as I'm going to be for right now, man. We're live. Yeah.
Here's your question. In your experience, what is the cost of trying to do too much in a launch, and how do you guard against that? Sorry, that was two questions together.
I mean,
Hey, you chose the question here, so here we go.
Yeah, it's a very, very personal thing for me. I feel like I've experienced quite a bit of that. Coming out of the banking industry, where I operated, I guess, almost 40 years. And then going to a book and getting involved in book sales, and then just having an idea of opportunities in speaking, workshops, coaching, and that type of thing. What I realized, any entrepreneur has to understand that whatever they're doing has no finite time to it. You think you have a good idea of how long it's going to take, and you really don't. I mean, there's so many things that you don't know. And so for every one of those things that I had hoped to start right away, I was, extremely eager. What I found was different timelines and trying to bring them all together where they could be cohesive. That time itself is money. You can only do so many things at once.
Yeah.
And everything that you're trying to start up, has a different vibe and kind of organic nature to it that you have to respect it.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of like, we think if we have everything at once, it's going to be great. But, the reality looking back on it is we need the one thing. We need the one thing to grow, to start generating cash flow. And, if we can be really specific about that, I think all the ancillary things come along, but it's very distracting. I think there's a big emotional toll on it, just as far as you wanting things to get done and feel like you're at a great place and the launch is complete. You got recurring revenue and that type of thing. And it's worse than it would have been if you just focused on the one thing. So I look back on mine, and I think the logical progression would have been the book to speaking engagements, and then just seeing how that goes and starting to do other things. But it's been a lot. I think entrepreneurship is a lot anyway, but trying to do 3 or 4 things at one time is expensive, emotionally taxing.
Yeah, it's expensive with your time and your focus. One thing that I've noticed about entrepreneurship and talking to other founders, it's the sense of urgency doesn't really stop whether you have one thing going on or 18 things going on, right?
Yeah, and it's
And how do
it's not additive. I think there's some type of geometric impact. When you're doing it, it's not like it's
you should
1 + 2 + 3. It's like 3 squared.
Well, you probably have a formula in your book on that specifically, but I would say, there's a sense of urgency. Do you, as a founder, do you temper that? I mean, there's some way of thinking that you would not temper that. You would just focus that. But what does that mean to temper the sense of urgency? And is that even a good framework to look at it, or a good lens to look through?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you've evolved from a kind of a 9 to 5 with a side gig, I think the urgency can be tempered if it's a sideline income. But I think once you're live and that's it, and you're going for it, I mean, there has to be tremendous urgency to it. I think the part that gets missed in there, you're urgent every day, but what is the realistic time frame for capturing enough share or specific clients that you're right sized to the expenses and you're making money.
Right.
I think that, and I've seen many people walk out the door with the book of business, the contacts, the leverage points, for physics, and it can be very rapid. If there are people that you're basically doing the same thing with, and you've been doing it all along, and you got a new gig of your own, like it's almost immediate. But for a lot of people, it's not that way. I think some people leave 9 to 5, and they're trying to figure out where these customers live and how to reach them, how to get their message out in front of them, and so it becomes like this really disciplined approach to like, what are the daily milestones and kind of gates that you're going through, that you made the right number of contacts with the right message, and you're always tweaking. But
Yeah.
I think you have to be urgent every single day about what you're doing. I don't think it ever leaves you, but there's also like there's a difference between being urgent and having a complete hair fire, distracted.
I don't know what you mean. Nobody
Yeah.
listening to this has ever experienced that
I mean, I
tongue in
like
cheek. Yeah.
urgency in a straight line, but
Right.
in my book, I talk about energy and momentum, and there's a part I talk about the old pinwheel firework where it's like a lot of heat and a lot of spin, but you can't really tell where it's going, and that's not good.
I think an appropriate, well, it seems like when you have a lot of projects going on, a lot of areas that need your focus, if you're depleting your energy levels to all these different areas of focus, nobody's getting the appropriate level of focus, or none of those projects are. And so maybe those projects get put on hold, and you've got to use some discernment and say that's a great idea. Let's wait on that until this other thing happens. And so you're focusing effort. So you still have the sense of urgency, you still have some, but you're driving that with focus
Yeah,
to
and
get,
that
like you said, get momentum and get moving forward
yeah, and I
and
think that
things that
is, that
make
word
money.
discernment, Jonathan. I mean, that's
Yeah.
it. It's like,
Yeah.
which one are you choosing? Sometimes we have the cash to pivot.
Hmm.
It's kind of like we thought we were going down one road, but it's like, it's kind of like, I read recently the Slack story, like they were trying to develop
Mm.
a software, a gaming system or something. How much money did they pour into that software trying to compete in the video game industry? And it turned out the thing that was most valuable was the tool they built for communications among the
For
project team
messaging.
members. It's like
Yeah.
that. And so, how much money do you have to come to the realization and make that pivot? And
Yeah.
it's tough. It's that level of discernment that I'm working on the right thing at the right time, and even within, if you have the discernment about the revenue source that you're going after, let's just get into a lot of your world, like marketing things, like
Yeah.
what's the best reach? I mean, what's the best way for me to reach these people, and how
That's
many
right.
iterations are you going to go through between, social, cold email,
Right.
just all the different methods. So
And when you're, yeah, and when you're a small business or you're in that growth phase of your business, sometimes all of your efforts need to be in educating and just making sure people understand, like, hey, this is what I do, and I'm
I
trying
mean,
to
the
do
the
it this
reaching out
way.
for
And
mentors. I mean, I
yeah,
just think it's so critical. Like, you don't necessarily need partners. Sometimes financially you need it. There might be a discipline or whatever, but I love mastermind groups. I
yeah,
love being planted in groups of people that are like-minded, that are trying to do the same thing, or maybe they've done it. And, their willingness to share. I think there's a universal bond among entrepreneurs. Like, if I could save this pain point for somebody in the future, I'll do it.
yeah.
So
Well, and back to your discernment. I mean, if you feel like you're lost, sometimes it's best just to reach out to a peer or others in your, maybe not directly in your same business, but tangentially related, that could say, "Hey, man, I've done that. I've seen around that corner before." Or have you ever thought about this? And maybe this is where you should have a third party perspective, just to give you some sounding board advice. That's really, like you mentioned, mastermind groups or a consortium of people that are in your same space, or even just a consortium of business leaders that are not in your space at all, but can kind of bring in the level of expertise they have in their own industries to say, this is what worked for us. Have you thought about this? It's a mix of all that. It's like an amalgam of all that stuff. And then, Lord willing, you get like, hey, I've got this, I finally found the right decision here.
secret
I know
sauce.
the secret sauce. There's a reason why it's secret, because nobody tells you what it is. Well, I think the goal for all of us in trying to grow our businesses is to say, I don't really want to make a lot of mistakes. You are going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And the question is, when you realize that it's a mistake, or you realize you're losing focus, and you're trying to launch something and you're spending all your time on all these different things, like, okay, what are the most important things I need to focus on right now? And what can I do to make sure I have guardrails to stay in those lanes? It's accountability and other peers that are helping you think through it. And a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm sure you're in that world, is, they get up every morning and they're like, okay, today I'm focused on this and I'm going
Yeah.
to try not to get sidetracked.
And just taking action. I feel
Yeah.
like we can fret and, stress out about things and second guess ourselves. But, I used to years ago, I banked this guy and he had some, retail athletic apparel stores. And, one of the things I loved about him, he never had a bloated inventory position because, I mean, if stuff wasn't selling, within a couple of weeks, 50% off, get it out of the store. I mean, like,
That's a good
you don't
discipline,
want to
man.
lose money, but get out of it for your cost and just keep moving on. And I think that's a valid
Yeah.
lesson for any business owner. Just keep moving.
I had a business mentor of mine that told me the same thing. Of course, it was in the services business, and we were spending a lot of time and effort on this one service. And he said, if it doesn't work out, it's just a really nice marketing expense and a business education expense. And I thought, oh, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, that's great. Well, I think from any other parting thoughts you have on launching and your focus and all these things that we've been covering today.
I mean, my biggest exhortation, I guess, to everybody is just to keep going. If you haven't started yet, get started. Do something about it. I think we all have great ideas, and in the book I talk about potential energy and kinetic energy, and I think we all have that energy at the dinner table. We're telling people like, I got this idea, and then we go to sleep and forget about it. But try to make it a reality. And there are baby steps you can take and see how far you can get with it. But I think it just helps our society as a whole when people are innovating and taking risks. There's always a way to manage the risk. It's not always, I'm going to lose my house if I try this. I just think that there are ways to test the waters and see what you got. Just strongly encourage anybody with that urge to go do it.
Those are great. That's a great exhortation. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for spending time with us on the Work Heartily podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe, share it with another founder or a leader that you know. And you can visit workheartily.com to learn how embedded fractional executive leadership can help your business grow. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much, Chip. See you soon.
Thank you for having me, Jonathan.
You got it.